everyone. Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College with more fun things to look at in the night sky, this time for the week of December 14th. And if you watched last week's video, and I don't know why you wouldn't have watched last week's video, you've probably seen it 3 or 4 times, you know that I talked to you about how I often bring you things that you aren't seeing other places, things that my suggestions of things of historical importance or otherwise interesting things that you maybe aren't getting advice to see if you go looking other places around the web. Except last week I did with the Geminid meteor shower, and if you're watching this now before the Geminid meteor shower on the weekend of the 13th, 14th, go out and watch that. And I'm going to bring you another one this week. Everybody's talking about the great conjunction, the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn coming up here, and I'm going to talk to you about it just a little bit. This conjunction, I think if you go people will suggest that you observe this conjunction on December 21st in the evening, just barely after sunset. That's the problem with this conjunction, is the planets are really close to the sun, probably closer than I've drawn right here. And so you have to be right on top of it after sunset to watch these things occur. I'm going to suggest you watch it the week before. So here's what's happening. Is with this conjunction, what that means is Jupiter and Saturn are lined up from our point of view. So here's the Earth orbiting the Sun, Jupiter and Saturn orbiting the Sun, and Jupiter is catching up and passing Saturn because it's a little closer to the Sun, and so it's orbiting more quickly. And so we're watching Jupiter pass Saturn, and they'll get lined up here. Now, Jupiter doesn't blot Saturn out because they have slightly different orbital planes. They're tilted just a little bit relative to the Earth's orbit around the Sun. And so it would be rare indeed for Jupiter to actually pass directly in front of Saturn, but they get very close in the sky, very, very close, and you'll see them right on top of each other. And that's happening. You should start right now watching this as they get closer and closer together. Hopefully you've been watching it in the evening sky for a while here now. This happens, given the orbital periods of Jupiter and Saturn and our orbital period, this happens about every 20 years that we see this alignment occur. And this is a very good close one, as you'll read about if you see this other places, that this is a good close one because of the tilts of those orbits. These are actually about as close to aligned as you're ever going to see. It's been a long time, anyway, since we've seen them this close. So this is what's happening. They're probably even closer to the sun. See, it would be great if they were back here when this was happening. That'd be midnight up here. We would be seeing this occur, and you go out in the middle of the night and watch this happen. And their actual closest approach is going to happen for those of us in North America. For those of us here in Iowa, it's going to happen about noon on Monday the 21st is going to be when they reach closest approach, meaning the evening of the 21st or the evening of the 20th, either one, are going to be really good times to go out and see this very, very close alignment. But again, they're very close to the sun, probably closer than I've drawn right here, which means they're up only briefly after sunset. You need a good western horizon, and you need to go out and you see these 2 bright dots, Jupiter and Saturn, and it's time now to start practicing watching them right after sunset and watch them get closer and closer and closer. They're already really close. And so watch this gap closing down, and I'm going to recommend December 16th, the evening just after sunset on December 16th as the best time to go out and observe this conjunction. They won't be quite as close to the sun. They're up just a little bit. It's getting harder and harder and harder to see them. They won't be quite as close to each other, but the moon is going to be right there. And so you'll have a moon, a very thin crescent moon passing this pair of planets on the evening of December 16th, Wednesday. And so the moon's only about 6 or 7% full. Very thin crescent. That tells you how close this is to the sun, because a very thin crescent moon isn't up very long after sunset, and so these planets aren't going to be up very long after sunset. So go look for that with a good clear western horizon on the 16th. The moon will still be in the area on the 17th. And make a nice pairing, but it will have moved off. So if you're seeing the planets here, it will have moved off to the east of the planets by the 17th. But interesting to watch all week as the moon passes through there on the 16th. Probably, we said that these conjunctions of Jupiter and Saturn occur every 20 years or so. Probably the most famous one, probably one of the most important ones, was in 1563 when Tycho Brahe observed the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And Tycho was really interested in the fact that the timing of that particular conjunction had been predicted using 2 different models of the solar system, but at that time really the known universe. The 2 different models was the Ptolemaic model, which had the Earth being orbited, being surrounded by all of the other objects on glass spheres circling the Earth. And the other then would have been the Copernican model that suggested now the Earth was one of the planets orbiting the Sun, and Earth was catching up and passing these outer planets, and we were getting this kind of alignment. And they predicted very different dates for this particular conjunction. So Tycho decided this was a great chance to test these two models, and he worked very hard to observe when this conjunction occurred and realized neither one of them did it very well. The Copernican model was significantly closer, but it was not enough to please Tycho, nor should it have been. And so he got sort of disgusted with it and decided to devote the rest of his life to making careful measurements of the positions of the planets, so we could build better models to better understand what the geometry of the solar system, again, the known universe at that time, what that geometry would have been. And the rest, the rest is scientific history. It sort of changed the world. It's what that test of those two models and the careful observing that happened after that to create the model of Kepler. It sort of changed the course of history right there, and built what we would call science today is really, that's the first case study of that. And so this is a chance to be part of that history, to go out and look at this conjunction coming up. Watch it all during the week of the 14th into the 21st, when that conjunction actually occurs during the daytime for those of us here in North America, when the actual closest approach. But it gets harder and harder to see as it gets closer and closer to the west. So go out right now, this evening, look to the west, and look for the two bright objects. Jupiter and Saturn are going to be the brightest objects you see out there against the western horizon just after sunset. So you're looking to the west, or maybe a little bit to the southwest, and see these objects settling into the glow of the sunset, and just watch them through the course of the week. Watch the moon slide past there on the 16th, and you've got you've got great observing this week. So I hope your skies are clear, and I hope you get a chance to see this. Good luck, everybody, and have a great week.